How does Denver not having Murray hurt them the most? What they lose the most?
Just having that other guy, in the playoffs when teams lock in, obviously their intentions is going to be to make your best player's life as hard as possible. And Jokic being that guy, obviously we're going to have a game plan to get ready to disrupt him. And then, having a guy like Jamal Murray out there who can also go out there and dominate a game and have a big game really helps. But not having him, I think the only thing for us is this one less major problem that we're gonna have to worry about. But that doesn't mean that that this team doesn't present a major problem because of Jokic and his ability to make everybody else better and pass the ball. So we got to come in with our minds right now, focused on who's not on the floor.
Also, I wanted to ask you about the rise in three-point shooting since you come into the league, just league-wide. When you came into the league, it was like 20-something per game, average per team. Now it's 35 with a high of 41. Where do you see it ending? I mean, is this something that's at some, few years down the road, teams are going to be averaging 50 a game, 55? By the time Dame Jr. is playing, is it going to be 70 a game? And where's it going to end?
I mean, there's no telling. The game is getting faster. Seeing smaller lineups. Team shooting a lot more threes, and it started with a few teams, and then everybody had to start shooting threes because it was like you got teams out here shooting 40 threes, and if your team is shooting 20, 25 threes, there's a small chance that you're going to win that game unless they go cold, because you're getting 2 and they getting 3 for the whole game. The way that balance out is you're going to end up on the losing side. So it's crazy how much has changed since I came in the league. I mean, it seems like one out of every 5 or 6 possessions is a 2-point shot now. It's like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 all over the place. But I don't see it slowing down. I think it's going to continue to just be that. They're going to have to move the line back or do something to make teams stop doing it, because if it stays as is, I think you're going to just keep seeing that number go up.
All right, thanks.
Jason Quick, The Athletic.
Dame, I want to ask you a couple of questions about CJ. First, how would you describe his arsenal of shots?
CJ McCollum?
Yep.
I mean, just super, super creative, man. Super, super crafty. CJ is one of those guys that, like, when we practice and when we play pickup, and even when I'm on the bench and he's in the game, it's just fun to watch. And it's not like he's a super athlete or he's super fast or nothing like that. He's just crafty. He just has a special level when it comes to like having a knack for scoring. He just right hand, left hand, fading straight up, toughly contested by a center or by a guard, off balance or on balance. Is just like his creativity and his ability to just, get to a spot and score the ball is special.
And then can you describe why that's so valuable in a playoff setting?
I think it's so valuable in a playoff setting because, in the playoffs, it's more of a half-court game. The game is slowed down. There's not as much freedom. I think in the regular season, the game is more like up and down, and when you got so much transition, the defense isn't set. Sometimes the defense is off balance, there's more space to, attack one guy and the chance that it won't be help there. So in the playoffs, when, it's not as much space, the game is not as fast, it's important to have guys that can be creative and guys that can get things done in small spaces and, make tough shots. And do it consistently. Some people might hit a tough shot and then after that, they don't tell them when they're going to make another one. And CJ is one of those guys that he can have a full game of tough shots, like he did the first game or game 7 in Denver 2 years ago. I was having a tough night shooting the ball and, here comes CJ with tough shot after tough shot after tough shot after tough shot in like small spaces, you know. And only players with that ability can take over a game like that, you know, and have a moment like that in the playoffs.
Casey Holdall, trailblazers.com.
Damian, obviously, you know what you're to expect from a defense. I mean, all season, but particularly in the playoffs. You know that they're going to send a bunch of attention to you, doubles, potentially triple teams. As you've gone throughout the years, both in the regular season and in the playoffs, how do you go about dealing with those things? And what are kind of some of the things that you would like to see in order to maybe loosen you up a little bit or give you some of those opportunities that you might not get when the games get really tight?
Yeah, I think I've seen it all. We had the New Orleans series where, you know, they was on me heavier than anybody has been. And then OKC defended me pretty aggressively. So did Denver the following year. But I think just my growth, you know, I was able to handle it much better and still be productive. In the Western Conference Finals, Golden State defended me the same way as New Orleans did. And I you know, some teams just have great personnel to be disruptive at those type of coverages. And I think, you know, I'm going into it expecting, you know, to get a lot of attention. But I have a much better understanding of how to free myself to have some opportunity and to make the game easier on myself. It helps a lot when our team is making shots and when we're making teams pay for putting so much attention on the ball on one person. And it also helps when we defend, you know, when we're not taking the ball out the net and, you know, coming down and they just locking in each time. We can get stops and push the ball. And maybe CJ is bringing it up off the rebound, or Norm is bringing it up off the rebound, and I'm not right in front of 10 eyes every possession. That could be really helpful. So those are the things I think about. I've started to watch film on our games against Denver and other games just to try to figure out where I can be successful and where I can find spots to try to dominate the game. But we'll see. You know, I'm prepared. You know, my body is feeling much better, and you know, these days off, being able to just get workouts in and sharpen up my game and rest at the same time is going to be really helpful. So, you know, I'm excited to be in the postseason again and try to go for it.
Do you feel like the personnel you guys have this season maybe puts you in a better position, at least going into the series, to maybe be able to go off, and particularly with the addition of Norm?
I believe so. You know, I think Norm being another ball handler, slasher, obviously CJ, I think Rocco has proven that he's a guy that could provide space, you know, with his ability to make shots. Nurk getting back into form to finish out the season, it should be really helpful for us as well. So I'm excited, man. I feel like we're better equipped coming into this season or this series than we were in the bubble for the first round. So, like I said, I'm excited to get out there and go for it.
Dwight James, NBC Sports Northwest.
Yeah, Damian, I'm curious what you think. You've had a little time to experience this now. The three-guard lineup, maybe when Norman arrived and the decision was made to go with three guards in the starting lineup, maybe what your perception of what that would be and how that's changed now that you've had a chance to experience it at this length of time. For you personally, how's it been?
I mean, it's been cool. You know, I think everything in the league now is numbers based. You know, everybody's talking about the numbers with this lineup, the numbers with that lineup, when this guy's on the court, when that guy's on the court. And I believe the decision was made based off the numbers, what the numbers look like with that three-guard lineup on the floor. And I think we've played well. You know, I think Norm gives us a element that we didn't have next to me and CJ, you know, where it's another guy who can handle the ball and, like I said, get to the rim, get to the free throw line, just a physical athlete, you know, with the ability to do the things that he's been doing since he's been here. So it just gives us a different look. And, you know, he's also a big guard. You know, he's not really tall, but he's physically present, physically strong and athletic. So he can guard those bigger wings. And, you know, I feel like the lineup has worked for us.
Joe Becker, K2.
Yeah, Dame, you mentioned how nice it was to have the week off to rest. I think you played 8 games in your last 12 days of the regular season. How difficult was this season with all the games crammed in? And you mentioned the rest.
I mean, looking back at it, it was difficult, but I think in my mind, I'm never looking for something to complain about. So I was just kind of going with it. But the more we talk about the season, and I'm like, man, we wasn't even able to leave the hotel for the first 4 or 5 months on the road. Nobody could come to your house. And, it was so much was up in the air, and we just traveling, playing, going to practice, testing 2 and 3 times a day. It was a difficult season. And then we playing game after game after game after game after game, coming off a short off season. And we just came from the bubble and things like that. And when you think about it and, how I felt that at certain times throughout the season, it's like, man, this was a tough one, what our team went through with the injuries and everything. I never stopped and took a second to be like, man, this has been a tough one to get through. But looking back on it, it's been a tough season, man. It's been a season we've had to grind out and push through a lot of things. But I think we've done well. Nobody's looked at it and gotten discouraged or been ready to just give up or go home or whatever. We ready to keep moving forward.
Got it. Thank you.
Jamie Hudson, NBC Sports Northwest.
Dame, you mentioned obviously Nurk being back and being back at full strength. And we saw obviously what he did in the bubble. We know what Nurk can do, but looking at this series in particular, and he's finally going to be playing in a real postseason or whatever, just how valuable is Yusuf Nurkic going up against the Nuggets?
I mean, super valuable because you got a big body to put out there against Jokic. Obviously, Jokic is going to do what he does, but just having a big body to try to wear him out and to, have to bang down there with Nurk and him having to defend Nurk and just that challenge, I think it's going to be great for Nurk. And, we didn't have Nurk the last time we played them. So Nurk played for Denver for a few years. They ended up trading him to us. It's going to be a great series for him and for our team, I think. They provide a challenge. And I feel like Nurk is going to be a big part of it if we come out on top in this series.
Sean Hyken, Bleacher Report.
Dame, going back, I think, to what Casey was asking you about the defense, what do you make of Denver's perimeter defense this year? Because obviously it's not the same personnel that they had 2 years ago. You don't know if Will Barton's going to play. They don't have Torrey Craig or Gary Harris anymore. What do you make of kind of how, the personnel that they have, they could potentially put on you this year?
I mean, like you said, you don't know who's going to be out there. I don't know if Thrill is playing or if he's hurt or not, but they're a good team. I think at the end of the day, they're a good team. They've found a way to continue to win, even without Gary Harris and Torrey Craig. And, you got guys like Dozier and Thrill if he plays. Aaron Gordon, I'm sure they brought in to be a wing defender. Shaq Harrison is a defensive player. Campazzo is disruptive. He's, like TJ McConnell. That's the kind of player he is, just disruptive, kind of a pest out there on the defensive end. And, he has a positive impact on the game. So it isn't, I doubt it would be one guy, I just think it would be collective, where they just constantly putting different bodies out there to, just to make my life hard. So they got guys that are capable of having an impact on the series, and we got to come out and give them that respect. I'm going into it with a healthy respect for everybody that's on that team because they're a winning team. They got a great coach. They got a tough coach. They come out and they play. They play hard. They're disciplined, and we got to come out here and give them the respect that they deserve for what the team that they've been this season, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna come out and put my best foot forward, regardless of what people might think or who they have or don't have. We got to come out here and do everything possible to win a series, and that's what my focus is.
Going back to Aaron Fentress, the Oregonian.
Hey, Damian, given the fact that you guys, when you lost the first game at Denver, you didn't have CJ, didn't have Nurkic, hadn't traded for Powell yet. The second game you lost by 1 point, you were still struggling with some injuries and things like that. Do you feel pretty confident that now that everyone's whole, the way you guys are playing, that this series is there for the taking?
Yeah, I think I think this is a 50-50 series, you know. They're coming in it, you know, like we can win it, we should win this series and we can win this series, and we coming in it saying we should win this series and we can win it. So whatever happened in the regular season is the regular season. You know, I don't think even if we had won those games, I wouldn't be coming into it saying we beat them in the regular season, so that means we should win this series. Like, it's completely different. Neither team has any other teams to focus on a back-to-back, or we got to go here after this or go there. You know, it's us and them. And, you know, they're our only focus and we're their only focus, you know, until these 7 games is up. So I'm not thinking about those regular season games. I'm just looking at what I know they're capable of, and our team trying to do a better job in beating them to win 4. You know, that's the only thing that matters.
The other thing I want to ask you too is one of the cool things about following sports over the decades is evolution of sports, how things change and evolve. Kids are growing up today shooting more threes than ever, obviously, than they were 30 years ago, and they were trying to dunk like Jordan. Do you ever think to yourself that players like you and Curry, who are shooting these deep threes, are maybe influencing a bunch of 8, 9, 10-year-olds to shoot a bunch of deep threes, and that 20 years from now, the half-court three is going to be something people hit at 38%?
Yeah, I think so. That's the way it is. You know, we was, like you just said, people was trying to dunk like Jordan and Sean Kemp and all those dudes, man. Dominique Wilkins, Dr. J, people was trying to do the things that they did, and we barely even saw them. You know, it wasn't like we had them on social media and YouTube and all this stuff. You know, they got so much access to everything that we do now, and the influence is strong. So I think you're definitely gonna start to see kids shooting the ball from deeper, kids doing a lot of these things that they see us doing. You know, it's gonna be a lot more popular, and I think because it gives hope to unathletic players, you know, to be able to dominate the game. You know, not that we're unathletic, but we're not Jordan level athletes or Zach LaVine or nothing like that. But, you know, we're still able to dominate games and have a really strong impact on games because of our ability to shoot and just do skilled things. So I think you see kids at a younger age working on skills, floaters and underhand layups, same leg, same hand layups, and step backs and deep threes and stuff like that. So I definitely think it's changing the game.
Thanks.
Last question is coming from Casey Holdall with trailblazers.com.
Damian, you had mentioned it before, and I think when you've talked about your body this year, I know you've talked about how you've had a lot of injuries and kind of a lot of knocks, but then to hear you say that you feel really good going into the series, I'm curious kind of where you would say your body is at right now in comparison to at this point in time, previously in the playoffs.
I mean, obviously there's still like little nagging things that I couldn't correct during the season. You know, it'd be till after the season for me to like really correct a lot of the things that I've had. But they're in a much better place. You know, I feel much better physically moving around. When I get up the next day after a game or after practice, even when I'm on the court, was working out today, I just felt good moving around. Or at least as good as I'm going to feel, you know, while we still playing. But I think the positive thing is, you know, I went through like the hard parts already where I just didn't feel great for weeks, you know, where physically I could feel it being in my way to where I just couldn't do certain things. And I was frustrated, but going into the playoffs, I'm like feeling better and better. So I'm just happy that, you know, coming into the end of the season when we needed to win games and going into the playoffs, like I'm at that point of it, you know, where my body is just starting to feel much better. And I feel like I'm able to do things that I know I'm capable of doing. So I think that's a positive thing. In the past, I've had times where I limped into the playoffs, like a lot of times, where I limped into the playoffs and I was like still able to play well, but I could just feel myself wearing down sometimes, you know. and I feel much better. I feel much better now. You know, I think even having this week off is going to be really good too. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. Thanks, Dame.